As CRM trainers and instructors in human factors, it's sometimes worthwhile for us to just remind ourselves of our primary role as trainers. Perhaps especially in these fast-paced, ever-changing times where stress arises and where there's always the risk that we fall back to old routines and patterns that may not be very constructive for the primary task that we have. So I'm going to start by giving you 3 options to choose from when thinking of your primary role as a CRM instructor or trainer. And let's have a look at them. Here they are. Well, hopefully you've chosen option number 3. Although I suspect that sometimes maybe even option 1 or perhaps 2 might sneak in their ugly heads. So the next question is fairly obvious. How then do students or humans in general learn best? There are many studies in this area. They've been conducted over decades and you may even be familiar with some of them. To start off with, I've just gathered a bit of text from an article published in Harvard. I will just leave it on the screen and allow you to read it at your own pace. So it's important for us as trainers to remember the aspect of always actively involving our students. There are many ways in which we can do this. Edgar Dale published a model that kind of relates to this. I'll just leave it on the screen and allow you to study it. This is old knowledge to most facilitators. We are aware of the importance of using different sensors to engage the brain and actively involve our students. And this is one way of doing it. The more sensors, generally speaking, we can include in the training, the more likely the brain is to hang on to that information, thus increasing the learning. But there are other ways as well. A Danish study on learning included a set of identical twin brothers, Anders and Jesper. Anders and Jesper were subjected to a number of logical questions and tasks that they had to solve individually. Prior to the experiment, the experimenters had tested the IQs of both twins and it turned out that they differed by only 2%. However, at the end of the experiment, it turned out that Jesper had outperformed his brother by 16%. So what is likely to have contributed to this notable difference? Well, it is something known as the golem effect. So basically, the 2 twins were treated very differently by the teachers supervising the test. One was very patient and supportive throughout. The other one was quite impatient, abrupt, and not supportive at all. Another experiment that demonstrated that learning is affected by the way we treat individuals was demonstrated by psychologist Boris Frederick Skinner, or also known as B.F. Skinner. B.F. Skinner had 3 different boxes. In each of these boxes was a red button and a green button, and in each box he put a rat. Now the aim of this experiment was to teach the rats to only press the green button. However, the rats were treated differently in the process. In the first box, whenever the rat pressed the red button, it would get a nasty electric shock. Whenever it pressed the green button, nothing happened. This is what we call punishment. We punish the undesired behavior and we ignore the desired behavior. In the second box, there was another rat and equally a red button and a green button. In this box, there was a very, very loud, extremely unpleasant noise. Whenever the rat pressed the red button, nothing happened. Whenever it pressed the green button, the noise stopped, but only temporarily. This is what B.F. Skinner called negative reinforcement. When the desired behavior is displayed, we remove the unpleasant stimuli, but only for a short while. In the last box was a third rat, and obviously also a green and a red button. Whenever the rat in this box pressed the red button, nothing happened. When it pressed the green button, it would be rewarded with a tiny treat. This is what we call positive reinforcement. We reward the desired behavior and simply ignore the undesired behavior. It may not come as a surprise that the way we treat our students affects their learning. You may even be thinking that it's not always possible to use positive reinforcement, and at times it may not be most constructive, that sometimes we need to use negative reinforcement or even punishment to achieve our goals. Let's just have a look at another extremely interesting study from the Danish military. A total of 80 people participated in this experiment. The 80 people were then divided into 4 different groups, 20 persons in each group. Furthermore, the researchers made sure to put the groups together so that each group had the same prerequisites or abilities to solve the tasks that they were going to be subjected to. Now, the experiment ran over a full 5 days, and each of these 5 days, each of the groups would be subjected to 20 fairly complicated mathematical tasks. Out of the 4 groups, one group was the control group. The control group was put in a separate room throughout the 5 days. In other words, they had no contact with the teachers or any of the other groups. The 3 remaining groups were then put in the same room. This was a fairly big room so that each group could work in each their corner, and the teachers or tutors were present in that room for the 5 days. Here comes the twist. Each of these 4 groups were treated differently throughout the week by the experimenters. As a result, one group was praised, one group was blamed, one group was completely ignored. So in summary, we have 3 groups who are in the same room with the teachers, one being praised, one being blamed, one being completely ignored, and then we have the control group who were working in a separate room on their own with no influence whatsoever. So the question is, which of these groups performed the best? Which of these performed the second best? Which came third? And which of these performed worst? Well, let me show you the results. When I train people, I usually like to ask them, how many of you have sometimes felt like 90 or 95% of the things you did in the simulator or the muck-up was a complete disaster? People start to laugh, but the truth is that most individuals recognize that feeling that 90% of what we did was a complete disaster. Now, from a logical point, it doesn't make sense that 90% of what a pilot or a cabin crew member does when they are training is a disaster. It depends on where we place our focus as trainers. What we did at Human Actors, we asked one of our clients through many years to send us some randomly picked comments on simulator sessions or simulator evaluation forms. Now, how many of these are praise? It is true that we can teach a rat to press only the green button through punishment. The rat eventually learned that. It's also true that we can teach the rat the same thing through positive reinforcement. As a matter of fact, this rat is actually the one that learned the fastest. However, the reason behind the learning is very different. When we punish people, we create an uncomfortable feeling in that individual. And so the motivation of changing the behavior is focused on trying to avoid that unpleasant feeling. That can damage the trust and also the motivation. When we use positive reinforcement, we create a positive feeling inside. So now the brain does not have to spend energy watching out for the unpleasant. It opens up to learning, and the positive feelings help to increase motivation and also the level of trust. Lastly, let's imagine that I give you and 5 of your instructor colleagues 1 person each for whom you're responsible. The aim is to get this person to his or her highest possible level of performance or learning, and you have 1 month. How would you go about it? Well, that decision is up to you. I hope you found this inspiring. In case you have any questions regarding this or anything else, feel free to drop me a line at any time. I'm always happy to help. In the meantime, watch out for more videos on humanact.com. See you soon.